Just whoa, 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 whoa. I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Well, we're not quite out yet. Today's Saturday. Welcome to Insights and Straight Talk. As you know, I'm your host, Rod Duff, and like always, with producer Barbie. And today's conversation matters. And you know what? It matters deeply, especially to anyone who's ever worked hard, shown up consistently, and still feel like the rules of the game keep changing without their consent. For generations, right? The American middle class believed in a simple promise. We're going to talk a bit about this today. As a matter of fact, in a way, Reverend, you and I were just kind of talking about this in the green room a second ago. So this is the promise that we believed in for generations. If you contributed, if you raised your family, if you played by the rules, life would meet you at least halfway. But something shifted. Institutions grew louder and less personal. Technology accelerated faster than our values could keep up. And too often, people were told, just adapt without being given agency. Here on Insights and Straight Talk, we don't trade in outrage or nostalgia. We focus on understanding personal responsibility and collective agency, because clarity is how power returns to everyday people. That's why this show exists. That's our mantra. And it's why we're grateful for partners like the Mangum City Library, who believe that access to knowledge is still the great equalizer, and to Leaf Lab, whose work with the Empowering the Regeneration School project and Voices at the Table is providing that real world, it's proving real world learning, stewardship, and human-centered systems still matter. These partners don't sponsor noise, they support thinking. Which brings us to today's guest. Joining us is Reverend Robin Harris, an advocate for human potential. Listen to this. A certified hypnotherapist, an ordained interfaith minister, and a technologist who understands that systems, whether spiritual, neurological, or digital, shape outcomes. Robin brings together spiritual laws, neuroscience, hypnotherapy, and project thinking. It's fascinating to help people uncover what's been buried, dismantle default patterns, and concisely design a life that actually fits. Because here's the truth. Most people are not failing. They're operating under subconscious agreements they never knowingly signed on to. Today, we're going to explore a number of critical things. Reclaiming personal agency in a distracted world. Why peace and prosperity must be a both and conversation. That's a big one to me, honestly. And here's an interesting one. How AI must remain a servant, not a master. And why the middle class doesn't need saving. It needs alignment. This isn't surface level inspiration. It's about responsibility, awareness, and designing forward together. Reverend, let's get into this.
All right.
How are you doing today? You know what? We had a really nice chat back there in the green room. You didn't touch the green peanuts, did you?
No, I didn't. I left them. I touched everything else, but not that.
All right, good. Because otherwise, Barbie, she'll come after me right after the show, right? So, Anyway, so how is your journey, and what is your journey? What was your journey that put you onto this path? Because to me, it's fascinating. I mean, especially after we've talked for quite a while, and it was really interesting to get to know some of those points deeper.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Well, I'm going to tell you that I'm a PK, a preacher's kid. And I grew up with studying the Bible and concordances and all that with my dad at the dining room table. And at some point, I started to say, hold on, wait a minute. And so this was the only disagreement I ever had with my dad, was about religion. Because I started feeling like, well, hey, if we're God's children, we should be living much.
What's up with that, right?
If we're God's children, the learning process and the learning curve and the guidance and the healing should be more profound, because God is good.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing the alignment. Something's off here. And my mother was very different, because she had the Bible, Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu Christian daily word. And so she gave me a global lens. And I think between the two of them.
Okay, hang on a second. So dad was a preacher, Christian, and then Hindu. Is that what you're saying?
No,
The global?
Okay,
I missed it.
Christian, grew up Christian, mom's Christian, but my mom my mom explored the global world.
There you go. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So she broadened my horizon, and my dad took me deep into the Christian roots. So I was just thinking the other day, I say I have church wounds, and for a long time, that was my story, because I grew up in the time in the church, women be silent, can't speak, go downstairs and cook the chicken, and you can't have a voice, and be submissive. If you have a question, ask your husband, and my calling, don't match up with being quiet and silent and in the background. So
Hey, folks, I just want to interrupt her for a second. I've only known her like personally for less than an hour, and I can vouch for exactly everything she just said in a good way. She's not quiet though. That's for damn sure.
Yes. So I was conflicted, and I love my dad. My dad was just, when I think of a Christian that walked the talk, my dad.
That's your dad.
My dad. But he was a human, and his limits. He also had this thing about, he's like, I know you want to be rich and I know you want to be wealthy, but I got that's a quick road to hell, And so I got that conflict. It's like the things that I craved, that I wanted, that I know really God wanted for me. My upbringing said, no, you can't have God in that. You can't have God in your calling. You can't have God in prosperity. You can't have God in wealth. And
Can I ask you something there? Go on with at some point, but that's what you're saying is always something that has confused me as well, because I'm religious. I'm gone through my own journey, and similar to what you're describing now, in essence, not exactly, but my point being, I've always been curious about exactly this point right here, especially people, a certain group of people that are deep into the religion and deep into the word, right? Okay. And all of that, believe exactly what you just said and talk about that. But then there's another truth in the same Bible, whether it's King James or the others. That same truth says that having wealth is not against biblical teachings. It's actually quite the opposite. There's a lot of glory and grace and wealth description, and talking specifically about being wealthy and to bring the Lord through that, and that's how you achieve that. So I don't get why do you think there was, by the way, there's a couple hundred people on here already. But hey guys, how you doing? Subscribe and like the show. But why do you think that you were receiving that message, or do you have a discussion or a thought about that?
I do. I have a thought about everything.
Yeah.
I do.
I knew I'd get that.
There's a couple of reasons. One of them is an intention to make people content and not want more. If I can convince you that God doesn't want you, the meek inherit the earth, that God doesn't want you to have this because these things are not good. If I can convince you of that, then you won't strive for it.
Ooh.
If I can convince you of that. Because remember.
Well, you're connecting some dots here, because there's also this saying that goes around that once you become successful, the devil will go after you. So maybe there's a connection. Mm-hmm. And the meek, I look at the meek as the middle class, because there's the meek, which is basically everybody. And then there's the ruling class, right? When they say the meek, that doesn't mean poor people at the bottom of the middle class. And I think too many people have talked about that. Do you agree with that?
Right. Yes. And the other part of it is because heart-centered people, spiritual-minded people tend to shy away from wealth. Then who's going for it? The ruthless.
Yeah.
So then what we see is a strong example, and the media plays a part, because all people with money aren't like that. But greed-based wealth is what we see, which then reinforces the belief that, if you're wealthy, you're going to be this way. So we're getting it from both ends.
I've never looked at it like that. You know what? I've never had a reverend talk like this before, and I should have had one earlier, because that makes a heck of a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Because if you think about Abraham, think about David, think about Solomon.
Exactly.
Rich widows financed Christianity. So where is this? And Christ says, I come that you might have life more abundantly. Abundant and broke don't go in the same sentence. So it's really, we've got to wake up and understand that my mission is that we have more heart-centered, value-led, compassionate, loving, kind, caring people make lots and lots and lots of money. Because I know that those people, when they have money, they're going to do good with it. They're going to be good stewards. They're going to be generous. They're going to be caring. They're not going to be hoarding. They're not going to be greedy. They're not going to be manipulating and gaming the system.
So what does that look like? So how do we change that mindset? So take this is an opening into some of your program here. So what is that? Excuse me, I just got something caught in my throat. What does that look like? Please answer quickly.
Well, first of all, we have to understand the money story. Each of us has a different money story. And even wealthy people, I know wealthy people that they're struggling, because in their mind, I can be wealthy, but I have to work so hard. And they work, these people are like working and working and working. They go on vacation, they taking their laptops, they taking business calls, they're working. So we all have a money story that was conditioned into us. And it came from our families and the society we grew up in.
True.
and whatever spiritual environment or non-spiritual environment reinforce. And so we got a money story, and we need to understand it's a story. It's a story, a narrative,
Expand on that. Go ahead.
a story. Humans live their lives through stories. That's what separates us from the cats and the dogs. And, they don't have stories, they don't have narratives.
That's true.
So a human has to live their life through a story. But if your story is not empowering, then as a human, you don't connect to your God-given power.
Yeah.
If your story is, oh, people like us, we just work hard and just to stay ahead, well, then you start creating your life, because those early stories, they are deeply, deeply rooted.
Yeah.
Deeply rooted. And once they're rooted, then you start to create your whole life from it. This is why it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So those thoughts are going deep. They're programmed into us, because basically our first 7 years we're in a hypnagogic state, and it's by design.
This is one of those things. Here's a term. You're the expert. I kind of understand what you're saying. Well, I understand what you're saying, but I want to make sure. Dive deeper into, what'd you call it? Hypnagogic?
Hypnagogic, meaning when a child, the first 7 years, and even in utero, the way that we receive, the way that we learn so fast is we're kind of in a state of trance, because we don't have any filters. There's no critical mind. There's no critical mind. So things can just be dropped into our subconscious. So those little events that seem like, why are you making such a big deal of that? Well, it's going so deep into that child. When you tell that child, oh, you're silly. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Why can't you do anything right? Why can't you be like your brother? We don't do that kind of thing. People like us don't.
Man, this is so powerful right here. What you're saying right now is so powerful. Well, everything. By the way, Joey is digging what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And you're welcome, Joey. By the way, I've been excited about this. So I didn't do it only because of you guys. I did it because I really wanted to hear this story. But at the end of the day, you said a couple of things there. You said, let's say up till 7, they say your personality is kind of locked in by the time you're 5. Then you also said prenatal, I think was the word you used. I'm not always in utero. Thank you. I was talking to somebody about a month ago and a similar about this kind of topic, and it was about how we're relating to kids, right? And she referred to a study that says during the last 3 months or the last trimester of the child being in the womb, say it again?
In utero.
In utero, the last part, the baby at that point can hear, sort of feel, but they can hear and they can feel. And so everything that's being said and done during that, not seen obviously, but everything is going in deeply, ingraining into the cells of that baby because it's still growing. So all of those things are building in. And then when the baby's born, then it starts the next level up until 5 years old, where all of that is creating a personality. That's what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's not fixed though. It is not fixed. Thank God. Thank God it's not fixed. So I believe the work of the human, the new creation, comes from us doing some very deep work and reinventing ourselves sort of through a co-creative process with the divine.
Building from the inside out.
Yeah, so now You come in with a narrative. You come in, our life is like a 3-act story. So even the first 20-something years of life, the brain isn't even developed. The brain is not developed until the person is in kind of like in their early 20s. So that first act kind of is where we get dropped into a story that's already in progress. And
Mm.
I believe that story is a setup. And that story can look tragic. It can look convoluted. It can look boring. This is where children can be programmed to be um, racist, sexist, bullies, all of this.
From what range? What range? Where are we at in here? Are we in like
0 to
teenage on?
7, 0 to
Oh,
7. But
during all of it.
during the whole first 20-something years, the brain is still not fully, is still developing.
Absolutely. I mean, they won't even let a male rent a car before he's 25.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
That's exactly why. I think women are like 20-ish,
Yes.
22
Yes.
maybe,
Yes.
and guys are 25.
Absolutely.
Pointing exactly to what you're saying.
Yes. Yes. So the thing is that and I love the sacred text, but I have a deep fondness for biblical stories and different things like that. And when the
Mm-hmm.
Bible says raise a child up in the way and they will not depart from it, will not easily depart from it, that's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
That's a double-edged sword. And that's talking about because you're programmed. You're programmed.
So you're saying you got to start programming that. Well, let's jump on to Joey here. Joey, the guy that I jumped a
Mhm.
couple of questions to get to this one because we're right in this area, right? So you're programmed from basically from pre-zero to 25-ish. And in that time, we should be, as you're saying, adding to that program the spiritual side. So what's the first step in aligning spiritual laws with the brain science? Because that's where you're talking right
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, am I
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So let's jump into let's stay in this place for a
Okay.
moment.
Okay. So the first thing is awareness that something's off.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that something's off. They just think this is how life is.
True.
And in their mind, this is how life is. We work hard to just get by, or we work hard and hope they don't change the rules. And if they do, there's nothing we can do about it. One
And you know
person
they're
can't
going
make
to.
a difference. And we get socialized and trained into thinking we don't have any power. So we have to go back to who we are, and you really start asking, what does it mean to be created in the image and the likeness of the divine? What does that mean? Because it didn't say Christians are created in the image and the likeness of divine.
Oh,
It didn't say
wow.
Buddhist. It didn't say Jews. It said humans. So what does
Yeah.
that mean? So what does that mean? That means we have access to a creative power. And we are, in fact, creating and co-creating, whether we know it or not. We are little creators. And so the alignment, the way the brain science is, the brain is a use it or lose it
It's a
organism.
muscle, right? It's a muscle.
And it is the interface to the mind. Now, the brain is the physical part, but the mind is a spiritual part. It's non physical, it doesn't die. The body dies, the consciousness, the thinker continues. And the brain is the interface. So when we allow our minds to be co-opted by all this negativity and all of this fear-based content and this stuff that makes us feel angry and powerless, we're going back into a primitive state and we're deprioritizing our higher abilities, our higher thinking abilities. This is the part that connects us to the bigger thing. The back part is about our survival instincts, and that's a mammal thing. So we want to start stepping into being more than just, we're not just smart mammals, we're divine beings. We have dual citizenship, and we've been programmed to only prioritize the human aspect of ourselves. So the first thing is awareness. What does it mean? What does it mean to be created in the image and the likeness of the divine? And I'm going to tell you, when you're willing to allow God, divine source, whatever you want to call it, to show you, if you ask sincerely, and you're willing to hear even an answer that don't set well with you, but it's the answer, a message will come to you, and it can come to you in any kind of way. Some people, I've had auditory messages. It's like, oh, okay.
That's
That,
a
that
strong.
was interesting.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. What I've gotten the opportunity to say this a few different times on different subjects lately, and this is one of those times where somebody. I told you how many shows we've done in the last year and a half, so I get to be exposed to a lot of these discussions within these lanes through different angles, different lenses, right? Same subject, different approach or additional approach. But the way you're talking about, I mean, this is all bringing it back down to working on your inside, yourself from the inside out. But there's another level here, and that's usually where I live in that world, and but now you're making this additional point of being dual citizens, and in being dual citizens, having the ability to be the best, not human, but the best animal, the best species on this planet with special gifts. But the one thing I don't think I've ever really heard before, honestly, that dual citizenship, that better citizen of the divine, and being part of that divine, and us. It's almost like a fallen angel in that we're not there because we don't focus on that. We don't talk about that. And if we did, when we do, I shouldn't say if, right? When we do, we become more of that thinking, that genetics that comes into us, now becomes coming from the divine versus just what everybody else is working with. Right? Let me just, before you answer, let me just add Kenneth to this. Okay. How can someone identify their biggest subconscious blocks? And that's part of it. I mean, you see some things now that you could never see before. So take all that together, that mush, and why don't you hit that for me, Preach?
Okay, so it's real easy. It's real easy. Look at your life. Look at your life. Look at the patterns of where you're unhappy, where you're hitting a wall, where you're falling down, where you're getting disappointed over and over again. Look for the patterns. Those are your cues that, oh, I've got a belief here that's operating unconsciously, and here is how it's manifesting. So at some point, I believed, because of my upbringing, and it wasn't family, it was my it was my unique way of receiving the message of women were second class, that I came to the conclusion that I wasn't lovable and I was broken. And the relationships that I attracted echoed, you're broken and you're not lovable. And I had to do some serious work on my sense of self-love. And I worked so hard to get out of that story because I didn't have the tools that I have now. I didn't have any of that. So I'm doing brute force.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
man.
figure this
I could
out.
picture that. Whew.
Yeah. And once I unlocked it, oh my God, that is how I met my second husband.
Mm.
My
Is,
second
is,
husband.
is that the guy we were talking about in the green room?
Oh, my second husband. And I will tell you, I met him at a dating service. So the first thing is like, I need a better source of dates because this is not working. And if I have to pay for it, I'm gonna pay for it. So I went and signed up for a dating service for 2 years because I'm just gonna be dating and I'm gonna be the dating queen. But I'm not gonna be fooling around with these jokers because I deserve better than that. And so I signed up in the summer. I said I needed a better source of dates. In a couple of weeks, I got something in the mail. So this is God answering that request. Sign up for this thing called Great Expectations dating service, a postcard. Oh, okay. So I signed up and I started dating and it was like, okay, this is pretty good. And in December, I got a note card that says, hey, this guy wants to meet you. So we met on December 6th at a restaurant. And we had a nice date. And he said, if you're not looking for a husband, nice to meet you, but we're done. And I'm like, okay. So I went home and I asked, a friend, should I call him again? And she was like, yeah, girl, go ahead and call him. So December 6th, I met him. Within a couple of weeks, he asked me to marry him. And I had to go talk to the senior partner. I had to go talk to him to see what God said. Because before God was like, no, 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 get rid of that joker, get rid of that joker. So I went and talked to God. I was on my Nordic track. And I got dropped into the womb. And this was the second time I experienced this. I got dropped in and it was surreal. And there was the big green light. Yes, this is the one. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So my point is, so we were engaged by December 31st. My point is that belief that I wasn't lovable got expressed in all the relationships, the first husband and all the goofy relationships I had. And when I came to the conclusion that, oh, yes, not only am I lovable, I'm a queen, I'm a prize, I'm a gift. Then I went through a period of there's this period where you kind of have to, it's like that in-between period, like when you're trying to grow your hair out and it's like, ooh. So, but that led me to joining the dating service. So when you're talking about rewiring beliefs from childhood, it's like weeds. And some weeds are stubborn. And
Yeah.
some weeds, you pull them up and they're gone immediately.
Yeah.
And no one can tell you whether this belief is a stubborn weed or this belief is you just pull it up and it's gone. I've seen people recover from the abuse like, oh my God. And they were so ready and willing and in a position to let it go that they were able to turn it around. There was no resistance. So the thing that will keep a belief in place is if you've built up a lot of stuff around it that you're attached to and you don't want to let it go. You're afraid to let it go, or I want to keep telling this story. Like I kept telling the story of being about my church wounds. I kept telling the story about being wounded because of my church experience. I kept telling that story. And it finally dawned on me, I love my church roots. The roots. But some of the stuff that it bloomed, we got to take care of. But I kept telling that story, so I kept that pain in place.
You got to do some pruning, right?
Yes.
Pruning, right?
Yes.
That's an interesting point in that it's not all or nothing. It's literally taking part of your own life again, right? So I for years, that journey in Christ, in religion, in spirit, you left it. I have a similar journey, different reasons, similar journey. But it's interesting the way you just said that, and that you go back. I actually love my. I went up and became baptized in the 6th grade in a church revival, and my mom was like, "Whoa, wait! What are you doing?" I'm like, "I got to go, Mom," and then I walked, and then I led life went in, and things changed, but I came back to it. And then coming back to it, that I've never put it to words, but what you just said is fascinating, where I love that those roots of mine, I just need to do some trimming, some pruning, some reliving my own life,
Mm-hmm.
And what usually kind of gets in our way is this disruption. I'm gonna jump onto Jeffrey's back here if we could. And how do you protect human potential in times of this constant disruption that we go through in our day-to-day lives, and those shiny objects we were talking about back, that politics throw out there. How do we handle all this?
Well, right now,
Are we in that conversation right now, what we're talking about, and going back to the spiritual? Is that the grounding that really we need more of, or is there more?
Well, we need to understand what's going on today, and technology has a part to play in it, because what the AI bros are trying to tell us is they're going to create something that's better than what God created. They're trying to tell us.
They're actually trying to replace God, and like churches are actually putting AI to do sermons, which kind of, okay, that's a good idea. And then it's like, wait a minute, that's not a good idea.
No.
I mean, the technology is awesome, but don't make it your master like
Oh my God. Oh my God. So we need to understand what the potential of this technology to trick us, deceive us into thinking that we are not created in the image and the likeness of God.
Is that where this is going then? Well, wait a minute. Whoa, this is a big thing. This is a big deal. Color between the layers, right? Hover here. All those things I said in the green room that I want to do. So are you saying that AI is, it's kind of that false prophet in the book, right? It's the coming, AI, this beautiful, wonderful, glorious thing that's going to make all of our lives better. But then as it evolves, is it already showing up and saying, I'm who you look at?
It's not the technology. It's not the technology.
Okay.
It's the humans pushing the technology. It's the humans behind the technology. I use AI.
Yeah.
You use it responsibly, ethically, and safely. And where it needs to be used, and there are lots of places where it just doesn't need to be. And so the misuse of AI and the misuse of technology, remember, the brain is a use it or lose it mindset. So we stopped writing, papers and stuff. Now you can't write a thought. You can't even critically write a paragraph. We stopped reading and passively consuming everything. Now the parts of the brain that are involved in reading go offline. We scrolling. That's addictive. So we're not living life. So the thing that we have to do is humans, individuals, groups of people like us coming together, we have to say, no, homeboy, no, we're not going down that road.
I like it.
We're not accepting that narrative. We're not going to let you put this in, and now our kids are being taught by AIs instead of teachers. We're not, now people are talking about AI boyfriends and AI girlfriends. They're like, oh, they need companions.
That's already happening.
It's 8 billion people on the planet. You can find somebody.
That's already happening too.
Yes. And we have to understand that this is one of the areas in the Bible that I just really don't care for, the concept of sheep. And I know that's probably not what they meant, but if you think about sheep only have two purposes. They're going to the barber or the butcher.
Yeah.
So when you turn people into sheeple, they're just resources for you to use however you want. They're just pieces on a game field for you to move around and do whatever you want to with them.
Let me ask you this. Let's flip the script on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're talking about all the things that we need to watch, and great points, what we need to watch out for. We need to keep writing. We need to keep listening. We need to have human teachers and interaction, and real love, not designed digital love. But how can we use it without weakening human agency? So as you said, you use AI. I use AI. It's a tool to be. It's the servant, not the master.
Right.
Right. So how let's spend a minute on the other side of this.
Yes.
How do we use it
so
that it doesn't take our human agency?
For one thing, a lot of the AI that they're putting out for the public use is not ready for prime time. It's like they're over marketing its capabilities in these agents. They're so the one thing we need to understand is we need to play with it and experiment. How can I use this to take away some of the drudgery, some of the low mind stuff that's just annoying and taking up energy? And how time. Can I use it? I used it. I tried to use it. This was just a simple thing. I tried to use it. I had a picture of the queen because I said I'm the queen of playbook. So I got a picture of a queen and it was like this, and the Victorian outfit, but it was clearly a Caucasian woman. And I asked the AI to turn it into take the skin and make it for a brown skin African American. It just
changed. Just all they did is change the melatonin.
It couldn't handle that.
Are you serious?
It could not handle that. So what I'm saying is, people should be experimenting and testing.
Yeah.
Seeing where it adds value to your workflow and where it's muting your voice, taking away the soul-to-soul connections. Don't use it in that way. Use it for brainstorming, but don't use it to write your paper.
Yeah, my son, he's 40 years old. My oldest is.
Oh.
He gave me the best kind of description. He said, AI is like somebody you want to bounce some ideas off of. And by the way, it goes berserk sometimes. It just
Yes.
loses its mind sometimes. And what you put into it, it can, like you said, run you down a rabbit hole you don't necessarily want to be part of.
Right.
And how do you get back out of it? But now I'm connecting this back and forth, and that was an interesting back and forth. The how to use it versus the things all that you were talking about. And what concerns me the most out of all of that is churches actually using apps to preach, to have Bible verses, the verse of the day, I am your Lord. And I've seen them. I've seen them. And talking about religion is one thing, but becoming religion is a whole nother thing. Like you said, the people behind it that are doing that, I can't believe they haven't thought that all the way through. If
They
they're
don't
coming
care
from a
about
real,
humans.
if they were coming from a real inner peace, a real
Mm-mm.
religion, they're not.
Mm-mm.
You're right. I totally agree with you.
They don't
Let me
care
ask you,
about humans.
let's jump around a little bit. This is kind of a fun conversation because it's all centered in the same stew, but it's got different beautiful components to it that work with it. That's what's so interesting. And I brought that up during the opening monologue. So with John here, he's doing what I'm doing right now. He's thinking, and can hypnotherapy help rewire long held beliefs from childhood? Because
Oh, yes.
now you've got to bring, because you're bringing that into some of your practice, or I'm sure quite a bit of your practice. And I love hypnotherapy, by the way. It's a fascinating thing. But you're bringing this in, and are you bringing in more of looking at myself as more of on the creator side? I really want to dig into that a little bit as we go along, because that's a fascinating concept that is never really thought about it. And then it also now extend, one of the things about religion is this the only planet or universe that God intended to have a species or a life or us humans, life? And I, and some of that exploration is interesting and unknown.
Yes.
But now you're talking about God has created a world that has him. Every person here. So then is there a greater mission as we're only using 10% of our freaking brain.
We're
so much.
caterpillars. We're the caterpillar.
There you
version.
go. That's what. Okay. There you go. You simplified everything I was just mumbling about. So can we how does hypnotherapy get into that? And let's take that journey for a second.
So a lot of times when my clients come, sometimes they come and they start from anxiety, and we get the anxiety under control. And then their goals, their dreams, and their desires start to emerge. And so then when you start going for like something that's calling you, something that's tapping you on the shoulder, something that's poking you, and you finally say, okay, I give in. I'm going to go for it. And you start trying to go for it. So then what happens? You're going to start bumping into beliefs that don't support going for it. And as you start, those beliefs start revealing, because you can have a limiting belief, and the actions that you're taking in life can be so far away from it, it never gets triggered. But when you're going for something that says, hey, I got to go out of my comfort zone, I got to grow, I got to retire some of those childhood beliefs, that belief that I got from my mom that says, keep your head down, stay below the radar, because you don't want to attract too much attention, that's going to come up. That's why a lot of people, we're not the selfie ape, the selfie group. A lot of us, we don't even want to be seen on video. This is why AI is like, oh, yeah, you don't have to be seen. Oh, no, you don't have to talk. It can talk for you. It can be seen for you and everything like that. No, no, no. Deal with what's making you want to hide. And so hypnotherapy really helps by identifying where are you stopped, where are the patterns, and we can start softening those beliefs and reframing them and actually see where sometimes we don't even need to go see where they came from. We don't need to look back. But there's a cognitive part of the session, there's a mentoring part of the session, and then there's the hypnosis part of the session. And so I'll give you an example. I'm going to disclose the job that I loved. I got laid off. And my hypnotherapist, who was also my teacher, because I was going through hypnotherapy school, she gave me, she did a session with me, and we always tape the sessions. And I didn't even know what it was for. It was for grieving.
Mm.
It was for grieving. And I would listen to that audio and listen to that audio in between our sessions, listen. And so, like, I have a library of audios. And if when I see certain things come up, oh, I need to go back and listen to this audio and this, and they're customized for my
Mm.
clients to deal with just their particular beliefs. But listening to that audio and listening, and you learn to drop into the subconscious mind, and you can learn self hypnosis also. It's very powerful. It's kind of
I
like
see.
prayer, you know, and you go in and you start working with your subconscious mind. First of all, you have to realize your subconscious mind is a treasure and it's running the show. And so you learn how to work with your subconscious mind by using different tools. There are different energy-based tools to be used. There's different breathing patterns to calm the
What do you
nervous
mean?
system.
What do you mean energy-based tools?
There's something like called like EFT, where you're
I've heard of this. I've heard of
tapping
this.
on meridian points to
Yeah.
release to bring the thing up into the nervous system so that it can be released. Acupuncture can help. Um,
I've done that.
Different. Some people can use yoga, qigong. For some people, just running and walking, being in nature.
Yes.
There are so many things. Meditation,
Let me
positive
ask you this.
prayer.
Let me ask you. You're combining some interesting things. I heard something a little while ago that fascinated me, and they said to me on this show here. They said, let's see, um, prayer is talking to God. Okay, so you get on your knees, however you pray, um, and then meditation is listening to God. What do you think of that statement?
I think that is a good analogy, and I think a lot of people, why they can't get the answer is because they've
Listen,
been
guys.
conditioned to not be able to quiet the mind.
There it is, right there.
You don't get rid of all the thoughts, but to quiet the mind. Because if you got all this noise going on, so God will speak to us in different ways. Now there's the whisper. There's the tap, like that thought just bubbles up. There's intuition. There's the poke, like it's a little bit of an agitation, or I really want this thing, or whatever. And
Mhm.
then there's the cosmic 2x4. And some of us will not listen until we experience the cosmic 2x4. I
Interesting.
do not recommend that. It's so painful. it will knock you to your knees, and it will force you into a state where you kind of have to surrender, but you don't have to wait for those moments in life before you will let yourself start hearing what the divine wants to say to you, and it can say it in any kind of way. Now, the most powerful thing is when you develop the relationship, and this is the problem that I have with quote unquote religion, because we're so busy with our religiosity that we
Yes,
forget to develop a personal relationship with the
that's it.
divine.
That's everything, isn't it? That's what religion is. Period. I mean, everything else is human made. I also heard another comment that was riskier, but it's God is real. Religion is man made. Doesn't mean
Religion is
religion
man-made. All
isn't
religions.
true. Yeah, it doesn't mean there aren't aspects that aren't true.
Yes.
Supposedly the Torah is literally written by God, though, the Jewish religion. That's their that they say that's actually written by God. I know. But anyway, my point being exactly that. God is real, religion is man-made. And I think that's fascinating, in especially in this conversation. And I'm so stuck on what you said about the divine. That is just such a powerful thought, a powerful comment, because I don't think whenever we have religious discussions, and we're talking about that right now, we religion is what it is, but being part of the divine, I don't think is ever an aspect of religion that really pushes. It pushes the other stuff because it's
Yeah.
human
But
man-made,
it's in
right?
there. It's in there.
It is in there. Yeah. Wow.
We
Just fascinating.
yeah. Can we look at what Rob is asking about?
Yeah, I've been trying to work this into here, and we've still got about a half a dozen questions, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, but my where I was working towards there is how can busy professionals apply this constantly? Well, it's the same thing as your home life. I mean, you're applying. So take that, right?
Okay. So first of all, we have to take responsibility for the fact that we all get 24/7.
Yeah,
And
true.
a good portion of our life and attention is going to stuff that is not helpful, does not
True.
move the needle, waste time, is is giving us little dopamine hits and feeding our little mental addictions. And when we start living life like that, I was talking about that. There are some, like, I know some wealthy people. They work like, I'm like, good Lord, I'm exhausted just listening to you.
Right.
You have all that money, but you don't have time to enjoy any of it. So a busy professional has to be a good steward of their time and their peace. Your
Mm.
time and your peace. And the best thing to do is, if you can take 15 minutes, it's best to bookend it. 15, 20 minutes before you start the day, and 15, 20 minutes before you end the day, and set up a practice to nourish your inner being and tend to your wounds and to further your relationship with the divine as part of the process. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Before I got on the call, I listened to my hypnosis audio.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
did a little self hypnosis, and then I went and talked to God. I did that before I got on this call. And you will be surprised how just orienting your morning, start your morning in peace, Start your morning with the divine. Start your morning with a positive expectation for healing and good and grace. Start your day like that. If that means you need to get up 20, 30 minutes early, I guarantee you there's something you are doing every day that's just a waste of time. I guarantee you, because
Sure.
nobody's productive 24/7. So there we go.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry, I was mesmerized there. I was like working it into my day because it's amazing how your state of mind really affects you, and how earlier you said something, and I wanted to jump on, but I was again just so into your topic I didn't. And shit, now I forgot my point. I'm going to have to come back to it, but that state of mind is what really drives your day. It's the frequency that you send out, and then what you receive. And there's whole thing, it goes out 7 feet, or no, 6 feet, and that's why you kind of have intuition. Sometimes you could feel somebody coming out. We're a human species, and I'm driving back to the divine, because that same thing, applies when you have that frequency. We all have that interaction, and how your mindset is really drives what's going out, and then of course
what's coming in.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
Indeed. Yes,
So
indeed.
so Jennifer's got an issue here, because she obviously has some, she's asking about polarized environments, and we all live in them. And this is what you were talking about in parents and children and families. And so all these things are part of our lives, and they have an effect on us. And then what we throw out in the world is then coming back to us. And that hypnotherapy, this system is amazing. This development that you have all together, because it connects the dots. And that's why I said every once in a while I get a reverend on, I get a you on. And so for Jennifer, how do polarized environments affect the subconscious mind? And like you said, that's what drives everything. That's the ruler of it all.
Intentionally, these environments are being architected and engineered to knock us off our game. Because when we are in a state of chronic stress, agitation, fear, we become highly suggestible. So it's almost like now we're in a trance state because we're so overwhelmed, but we become highly suggestible to negativity, because it's sending us back into our primal state where we have to be threat scanning. So in a polarized environment, you have to learn to protect and guard your mind and your energy. And there are things, some people, they like to work with angels. So they like envision, the four archangels. One in front, one on either side, one behalf. Like Carolyn Mace. Oh my God, she's into angels. She's like, get me out of here. and the divine has emissaries, angels, guardians, or whatever, that will respond to us. But there are things we can do, even like surrounding yourself. It sounds so woo-woo, but it works, because our mind is powerful, creative force. Surround myself with white light. I have this whole thing about bringing in peace and then echoing it out. Wow. I manifested coming into COVID, my finances tanked, and I had to shut down my business, and I was in so fear. My thing is finances, that I manifested the worst job probably the second worst job ever. I made a lot of money, but it was the worst job. It was so toxic. And I sat at the end of that contract, because it was a contract. At the end, I
Mhm.
said, oh my God, I manifested that through fear. Oh my
Let me
God.
let me jump something on here. Somebody's been tagging you while you're talking right now. I
Mhm.
jumped over a couple of questions here. You're still okay on time, right? We're over an hour. Can you believe that? It's already an hour gone by. But while you were talking, this popped up and it really caught my eye, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of deep. Did you know that you are the unseen one? You can imagine yourself in front of you, then imagine who is watching you. He's got a series of comments here. What do you think of what he's saying here?
Did you know you are the unseen one? I don't know what he meant, but I have. And Napoleon Hill talks about this part of, he calls it, and Henry Ford tutoring him calls this presence
Mhm.
the other. And it's like a part of you, but it's wiser and it's kind of rude. And I've encountered it. And it usually comes in when you're in crisis.
Give me a picture of what it's kind of rude, meaning it's abrupt. It comes in crisis. Is
Yeah,
that
it
where you
like
going?
I'll
Well,
give you
give
an
me
example. My
yeah.
friend, she was standing outside. It was after a storm, and the voice said, "Move your ass now." And she moved,
Ah,
and the tree fell. The
yeah.
tree thing fell. It would have gravely injured her. I was at a low in my life, and I was contemplating taking my life. And it's like,
Been there.
call Sibby. And I'm like, huh? Oh, it's like, don't hummy, open the drawer, get the phone book, and call Sibby. And it's like, why would I even have Sibby's number? That's my sister's friend. So I obediently opened the drawer, got the old phone book, and it's like, huh, I have Sibby's number. And I sat in my bedroom in the rocking chair, and she prayed for me. I never ever talked to her again.
Wow.
But that took that pain away.
Wow.
So when I'm going to interpret, so the unseen one, I feel is like a higher aspect that can come, and it's not a physical thing, and it has an energy that is
I see
much
that.
higher to us and is much more aligned with the divine. It's almost like it's a messenger.
Yeah.
And I have experienced when I'm sort of like, it's my version of channeling, but channeling a wisdom,
Mhm.
and I do it when I'm writing. So there's this wisdom that can come. And you've all seen it. You've all seen when you are on your A game, when you're in the zone, where everything
Yeah.
that comes out of your mouth, where you just know what to do, you respond, you don't get ruffled, your feathers don't get ruffled. You can see through those eyes. Now, I have had the strange experience of, I'm coming out of a wilderness experience from being laid off, and I'm not quite in my promised land yet. And there's one little last thing I got to do. And I love my Bible stories. I got to march around the wall and blow the horn of truth. Let go of those last fears. March around the wall, blow the horn, so that final wall will come down, and I can go into my version of the promised land.
Now
But
let's extend that just before you go into that. He's got a trifold here. You can't see which sees there, and that is the crisp reflection of what God is. All dreams reside in you.
mhm,
Isn't that beautiful? I mean,
mhm,
he's connecting. He's basically you're bringing, and look at the image there. He's obviously a religious person.
mhm,
Aramec. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I don't know the name there. But I wanted to bring those connected points. What do you think of that trilogy there? That was. You're bringing that spiritual out in people. The
I
audience is connecting.
I I I believe that we we are arrogant when we think we can know and understand what God is. How can we understand? How can the finite understand what the infinite
Interesting.
is?
Yeah.
But but we can have a little slice. We can have a little slice of the infinite because we are hands and feet of the divine. We have an opportunity to be a channel. Now, as a vessel, if you so I have a water bottle right here.
Mm,
The
yes.
vessel sh- determines what form it takes. But you could put this water into a lot of different things. You can put it in an ocean, you could put it in a river, you could put it in a body, you could put it in a tall glass, a little glass, a little. So we are primed to be vessels for to express some aspect, and it's going to be unique. God don't need clones and duplicates. Some unique expression, and that unique expression is given by you cooperating, healing those old stories, surrendering, developing that relationship. And a lot of times, and it doesn't have to be look religious in any, it does not. It's just, it's life. God exists pre-religion and will exist post-religion. It's how life wants to express its highest nature through you, through this season of your life. In the next season, it could do something different.
True.
And so your dreams, I say your soul's dreams, not the dreams that give you status according to what people say is important, but your soul's dreams are a gateway,
Mm.
are a gateway to you becoming the type of human that can co-create with the divine. And that's going to look very different for
Mm.
every person. So we got to stop thinking there's this one, they're templates. They are templates.
Sure. But we're all individuals.
Yes, yes,
Oh, beautiful thing. Hey, Mike has something here that he's asking that to me is personally also very important.
yes.
I'm dying to hear your answer, and here's why: because being humans and being finite, still having that divine connection, which, and I think this is the direction of this answer. But how do you balance logic and intuition in decision making, because that's where this inner fighting can be.
Hmm, hmm.
Am I listening to God? I've done this myself. I've wrestled my own mind, and it's like it's frustrating. How do we know the answer?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit to when I was talking about how I knew that it was okay for me to marry my husband after 3 weeks.
Right.
And
Oh, by the way, speaking of that, producer Barbie and I got together on December 6th.
oh, very, very special day. Very special
Well,
day.
when you said that, I wanted to interrupt you, but it was such a beautiful story. Did
And
not. I
and
was hoping to
and
come back
and
to it.
that was more than 26 years ago. I still love
Yeah.
that man. I love him
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
now. But so how you balance logic and in intuition is you could do like a series of, it's like an experiment where you learn, okay, is that, and a lot of times is that the intuition. How many times have you did something and you say, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or you didn't do something, and then when you look back and say, "Oh, something in me said I should have done that." So it's a you have to develop some trust in that communication pipeline because it goes back and forth. Intuition will hand something off to logic. Okay, go do X. And then logic needs to come in and say, okay, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this first, this second, this third. They can work together.
Okay. So trust is a component that binds that. You got to well, no, you know what? Experience adds that trust, doesn't it?
Yes,
Once you
yes,
start observing, okay. Got it. So
yeah.
once you notice, you take part. I have this intuition. I reacted. Then you have a result. And then you look back and say, "Oh, I wish." But through that process, you gain trust.
You
Oh, I
gain
love
trust.
that.
And I'm gonna tell you something too. A lot of people that have made some amazing contributions to society, those came through intuition. It was talking about,
Mhm,
was it,
mhm.
Einstein would take these naps? And I don't know if it was like Edison or somebody, but they got the idea for the, coil of the light or something like that. But these people, they're so comfortable with getting these hits. They're like downloads. And then you
Mhm.
use logic and reason.
Look at Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Same environment. Look at Tesla. I mean, there's these moments in time where people listen to the download of divine. Ooh, didn't that sound good? I like that. Right?
Mhm.
That's what you're talking
Mhm.
about. That's what
Mhm.
you're saying right there. Wow.
A lot
And
of
those people, and
inventions.
you know what? Let's extend that. And then once they get that confidence that that intuition was correct, they continue the downloads, and now there's a lot of they're a vessel now, right? From the divine, like you said. Go on. A lot of inventions.
Yes.
Go on.
Can this
Being
can this approach help the middle class regain momentum? This approach can
right there.
help a human reconnect.
Yeah.
So it's really not class specific, but as a group, the middle class needs to kind of like feel into a sense of number one, we need to do some inner healing and look at, okay, where did I fall down on the job and let things, what was my part in letting things go off the rails? What was my part? Because I know there are a lot of people that don't vote because they feel like their voice don't count. And then they complain. Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
get to complain. I don't care whether you voted red or you voted blue or you voted purple. You don't get to complain because you didn't vote.
Yeah.
So
That's
so
ridiculous.
we for the middle class, I believe that there is an opportunity for us to come together. I don't know how that I don't I'm sure there are some brilliant people within this community that are
Oh,
bringing some
hey,
mad skills to the table, right?
hey, girl, you got to listen. I told you earlier. I'm not self-promoting here. It sounds like it. I am, but you got to listen to yesterday's show.
I'm
I
gonna
know we already
listen to
talked
it.
about. I
I'm
know you
gonna
already
listen
said
to
that,
it.
but you are so freaking right now. Go on,
So
please.
we got to come together because if you think about it, all the things that we have,
Yes.
the elite didn't just decide to give them to us.
Nope.
I
Nope.
come from like 4 generations of auto workers. 4 generations still going strong.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh, okay. Michigan. Gotcha. Michigan to
yes,
Georgia. Michigan to Georgia.
yes,
I just
four
connected that.
4 generations of auto workers.
Wow.
And Um, there was a time when you didn't have the union, and the auto workers weren't being treated so well.
True.
And so they came together. And, I'm not going to get into, how people feel about the union or not the union. The only reason there was a need for a union is because people don't want to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I'm not for protecting lazy people. That's not what it's for.
That's true.
So it could be dicey, but in general, these organizations came together because without that organization, their voice was not loud enough.
Yeah. That's the concept of the great middle class, right?
Yes.
This show, anyway.
So coming together, if they can lobby, why don't we lobby?
Yes.
If if we need to be pulling people's coattails in Washington, like, you work for us. You work for us.
Oh my God. You know what? You and I have to do more shows together because you're from a different lens. Oh, by the way, before we close up here in a minute, but before that, see that private chat over there? I should have mentioned this earlier. I just got fixated too many times. You put in your contact information because you know how it works. A month later, a year later, a minute later, somebody's going to watch the show and say, "Oh my God, I wish I would have been on. I would ask the Reverend this." And this way, I'm going to have it at the end of the chat, and they can contact you directly. We are going out here on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Facebook. And these shows will stay out there, but you got it on there. You got it on there. Let me have you look at this statement from Kenneth. He knows a few of them. Yes. And what would you want to leave people with a final thought that just kind of wrapped up? I mean, what you just said is so beautiful because, like I said, you need to be on the show more because what you just said is exactly the different components of why this show exists. Because I don't care if you're red, blue, whatever. And there are certain things that are important that need to be adhered to. And there isn't so much that needs to be beyond that. But beyond that, what we need to do is exactly what you said, is come together as a great middle. That's why I use that term, the great middle class.
I love
because now it's a union. It's the most freaking powerful union that could ever be in the world. And we're not trying to go for better rights. What we're trying to do is get better politicians.
Yes.
Because that's what we have, a system, and it's a damn good system. And our forefathers, they were elites. They weren't great people necessarily at all. But what they did do is they put a system in place for this country and these citizens to be able to change the world in a way that you described in this show today. What would you say as a wrap up? And then I'll do a closing monologue. I'll meet you in the green room.
Okay. My closing remarks will be, do not underestimate your power. Do not you are connected to the infinite. And don't think of that as foo-foo, metaphysical pretend. It's for real. Science is even validating. There is something in the field. It's everywhere. We can't be separate from it. We don't exist separate from it, but we can ignore it. Don't underestimate the power of your intention, the power of your internal work, and the power of the collective. See, we can be a positive collective that begins to put this energy out into the world intentionally, not like, I'm going to say, not half-ass, like intentionally.
Yes.
This is what we're putting out into the world. And own it. Own that connection and start working on yourself, taking yourself to the next level, and then asking, okay, what next? What next? What do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? You'll start to get answers.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. Why don't you give everybody a big wave? I'll wrap up, hang out in the green room, leave those green peanuts alone, and we'll talk to you in a second.
I will not touch them, I promise.
All right, another big wave. Perfect. All right, that was awesome. That was, I said several times during that show, I said that I was kind of mesmerized at a moment. It was the Reverend mentioned a couple of times how a voice or a comment or a moment can come to you, and they come in different ways, and they. It was almost like there was a number of moments there where that channeling, Robin mentioned about being at times getting this channeling that goes on, and it's fascinating. How when you're in the middle of, I've mentioned so many times now that we're getting close to, this month, in the next 2 weeks, I'll be over 500 shows, and every once in a while, there's one of these that come along and have that great effect. And as we bring today's conversation, to a close, I want to slow it down just a bit. What you heard today wasn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what's already there. Human potential doesn't ever disappear. It gets buried under stress, distraction, fear, and honestly, default thinking. Reverend Robin, she reminded us that reclaiming agency is not loud work. It is intentional work. It's choosing design over default. It's aligning our inner systems before trying to reform the outer ones. That's an important aspect, building from the inside out. And it's understanding that technology, politics, and institutions should serve human dignity and not replace human dignity. That's also why we're intentional about who stands with this show. The Mangum City Library continues to remind us that access to knowledge creates freedom quietly, consistently, and locally. And also the Leaf Lab, through the Regeneration School Project, is modeling what happens when education, business, and human development that work together instead of in silos. These are not sponsors chasing clicks. These are partners interested in stewardship. Now, if this conversation resonated with you, here's how you can help to continue the conversation. Subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, 1939, at Rod Duff 1939. Subscribe to our Substack, where we publish 3 days a week with deeper reflections, essays, and behind-the-scenes content. We do that through Mondays, Barbieisms, Wednesdays, poems and pages, and then Fridays, Behind the Mic, kind of a harsher tone, right? But we're extending that conversation. And you know what? We generally appreciate your sponsor and your support by following us on X, Instagram, on LinkedIn and Facebook. Every subscription strengthens independent media. Every share expands that conversation. And every thoughtful viewer helps keep this space very human. Just insights and straight talk. This is where clarity replaces chaos. Where the beacon stands out amongst the noise. Where agency replaces outrage. And the middle class moves forward together. I'm Rod Duff with producer Barbie, and we'll see you next time. Remember, stay after the outro video. Always some goofy little surprise I do. And with that, I'm Rod Duff. I am your host. I'm getting a little Saturday night fever, and I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Love God.